Hey ladies and gents, Brian here with Mana Beast, and today I'm going to be doing an updated version of my blue Tag Team Ginyu. However, I'm going to change it up a little bit. I know I changed the last deck profile, but I'm changing this one up because I think it's necessary. So first and foremost, I'm not going to go over an individual card list in the video. If you'd like that, number one, the actual deck list is going to be in the description. On top of that, we're also going to work with our buddies over Pan-Z, and I'm going to put the deck list up there. So if you want to go check it out, you can just go click on the link, download it, and then it's ready to go play on Octagon. So no going through each card. Like, I know you guys don't come here to just watch me name all the cards. So not going to do that. You want to know the card list? In the description below. We're going to make this simple and easy. So let's get into this deck, which I personally feel is the current meta killer. I fully believe it. It has done well. I've tested it probably in close to, I would say, 50 to 60 games, both online, offline, and it has just done astoundingly. So starting off with the blue Tag Team Mastery and Ginyu, it's just a match made in heaven with this current meta. Tag team, of course, we stop all the bull going on with the whole unleash shenanigans. Even though it's been errated, we can do a lot of cool things with that, and I'll talk about that a little bit with the allies. And Ginyu, he's just still solid. Energy beats, great onboard attack, on hit pressure with his level 1. Most of the time you're going to be sitting at 1 on this deck. You will advance to 2 during certain points of the match, but depending on the deck you're going against, if I'm going against an NPPV deck, if I'm going against the deck that I don't want to see the higher levels on, I've got digs in here too, as you'll see, we'll talk about. I might not want to use those, but we'll kind of go on that as a case-by-case basis. So yeah, Tag Team, Ginyu, Meta Killer. Let's get right into it here. Let's start first off with events. We're good. Sorry when time is a warrior's tool, because, I don't know, an event that stops all blocks is great. Still just as viable as it ever was, and it's a promo, so you know it's shiny. It's even better. We are running only one Villainous Energy Sphere. Why? Well, because we also run 3 stare downs, and I'm a firm believer that the stare downs for me are much more valuable than a sphere. I know there's a lot of people who run 2, 3 spheres. I personally think that's a little unnecessary in this meta, especially with Ginyu. Ginyu is here to control and beat down, do damage. He's not winning by NPPV, and he's not winning by ball victory. So in my opinion, you want to disrupt him as much as possible, and stare down is that card. Getting rid of key cards out of their hand. And I only run one of the Villainous Energy Spheres, and the real play I do all the time is just using Blue Terror. So I'll use Blue Terror, and as I'm using Blue Terror, I'll search out the Villainous Energy Sphere. A lot of time, especially mid-game, late game, if I see them holding on to 1 or 2 cards, and I assume that they've been holding on to a time or an event like a stare down or a confrontation, this is just it's a really good bait play, because when you do Blue Terror in a Villainous Energy Sphere, a lot of times you put the pressure on your opponent, because yeah, you're telegraphing your move, but in the same respect, now the pressure's on them to say, well, I've got this time, I know he can spirit, I don't want to use it this combat. Now he may have a confrontation, he may have a stare down, and of course you gotta roll with that as you go. But for me, this is the main target with Blue Terror. I will target a few other things, but most of the time I'm gonna get a sphere, I'm gonna prevent you from hitting time, I'm gonna prevent you from using your other key events, and Unleashed is another one of them. So that's why I only take it at 1, because hey, I'm going to disrupt your hands with the 3 stare downs, which I think is a superior tactic in this deck. I want to get rid of key blocks, I want to get rid of key cards, and I think it serves the purpose much better than previous decks. Other event we run is 3 blue shifting maneuvers, because it's still a solid event. It's an Omni block, one of the, I would say, best ones in the game. We got an Endurance 2 on it, and we're going to stop a physical or an energy attack. The other issue, and we don't really use this for any reason, if your anger's at 3 or higher, discard after use instead of the banish. I don't really use it for the whole discarding thing. If I do, it's, I guess, a bonus as a card in my discard pile. but the only way I would use it is possibly maybe if I was going to get it out of my discard pile with Recoome, but yeah, I don't know. So there are my events. Let's talk about this card. We do run a Dragon Ball, and we run Earth Dragon Ball 7. This card I cannot praise enough. It's absolutely phenomenal. The power, of course, is once per game. As an action, you may play a Dragon Ball from your hand in a play, but the parenthetical effect, which is what you will be using it for, once per game, you may play this card from your hand as an action in combat. The best part about this card is it serves a multi-purpose for you that, as good as Ginyu is, there are just some combats where your opponent is either gaining advantage in anger, Dragon Balls themselves, or they're just putting a big beat down on you. And sometimes you just need like that, okay, I'm out, I'm ejecting, I can't be in combat. And this is good to have in your hand. The other great part about it is too, if you don't want it right away, you draw it early and you don't want to hold on to it, just pitch it, it goes down to the bottom of your deck. Because you're using Ginyu 1 all the time, guess what? Your deck is shuffled all the time. That pops this up closer to the top so you can draw back into it again in a more opportune combat. It has saved me more than once, and just kind of looking over the lists, talking with Chris Williams, who I saw on one of his lists, went over a little of his mentality, and I do think it's a good addition. I think it's a solid overall way to help you mitigate your opponent's advantage, and that's why we run it, because it's just that good. All right, let us talk about allies here, because we're Ginyu, you know. We're gonna run Android 13. Main thing about him is he's just a nice on pressure, just more damage. It's a poke, energy attack costing 1 stage, damage 3 life cards. We're not going to use him for his secondary abilities because we don't have any other Android allies in the deck. But when you have a lot of main targets, like the other thing we're going to talk about here is Jiece. I mean, if you look here at Jiece, the big combo is a lot of people are going to want to get rid of Jiece pretty quickly. He's a 2 for 5. And the nice thing is still having another energy attack on board, even if they do get rid of Jiece, is nice. And then of course, you know, when we're modifying attacks here, and the real bonus here is with Guldo, you know, we're doing this whole modification, we're adding the 2/2, you know, he's a 1 for 5. That's a really solid attack. Other great thing about him is when we're going into combats and we only get a 1 PUR, a lot of times with Jiece, when he comes out at the beginning of the game with Captain Ginyu, he's sitting at 4 above. You're going to use him once, go down to 2, and then even if you have another round to power him up, he's only to 3. So then you put him down 2 more and he's up 1. So you can really use him 2, possibly 3 times if you pass combats. Android 13, every time you power up, his combat is good and his power is good. So again, it's a nice way to just peck away at the armor, and that's a lot of the theory behind this deck. It can do massive amounts of damage. I'm not saying it can't, but the real great thing about it, it's just this pinpoint, just peck, 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 damage, 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 damage. And turn after turn, you just start wearing away at your opponent. And you gain so much advantage in actions that your opponent gets to a point where they can't mitigate that well. Speaking of Jiece, we got him out there, 2 for 5. With Guldo, it's 2 for 7 in 2 stages, which is extremely powerful. He, again, is just a great onboard attack, and he does give you anger on your level 1. I don't really level up with him because I don't gain too much anger in this deck naturally. Again, this deck isn't really about getting off level 1. Level 1 is your bread and butter, because when you're rejuvening allies that get banished, put it back onto the field from his level 1, it's a bonus, and that's why I like staying on level 1 a lot. Guldo, because Guldo is too good. There have been so many turns where an opponent will want to go into combat with me, but they see I'm at 1 or 0 above. I got Guldo out, and for them, it puts them at a disadvantage because now they have to play differently around him. Their strategy of gaining anger by throwing attacks, they have to be mitigated now, because if they want to go into a big combat where maybe they're going to gain anger with PvP, or maybe they're going to try to beat me down, they have to look at Guldo and go, is it worth a +2/+2 modifier on all of his attacks for the rest of combat? I mean, that's a question they have to ask themselves. And Guldo is just a great way to not only do extra damage, but to scare your opponents from going into combat when you're low on power stages. So he is just paid for it in spades. So Got those allies. Oh baby. Cooler. Can we talk about this guy? Because I got 99 problems, but Unleashed ain't one. Hit me. Preach it, brothers and sisters. This is the guy, first turn, I'll pull him out. No doubt about it. I pull him out first turn against a Goku Unleashed deck. You want to Unleashed against me, you're playing a Slug Ball deck, you do whatever you need to do, because he's coming out first turn. And again, it's so great to see him on the field, because so many times I'll have him on the field and people will be like, okay, I'm gonna Unleashed. I'm like, okay, do your thing, man. Cool, attach your card. I'm gonna level up. No, you're not. Why not? Cooler. So many people still don't know what Cooler does. Now, besides that great effect, there is another effect which I find extremely useful in Ginyu. And this is a play I make all the time. So let's just say we've got here Jiece on the field, right? And let's just say Ginyu's at 1 or 0 power stages and Jiece is active for actions, right? A lot of times what will happen is your opponent's going to want to get rid of Jiece because, again, a 2 for 5 is solid onboard damage. It's another action. So let's just say somehow, some way they crit him away or they discard him away. Again, your opponents a lot of times are going to be focusing on the discard ability because they know you can get him back from the banish zone. They don't want to put him there because that gives you an advantage. So they're going to discard him. Great. He gets critted away. He gets discarded. Guess what we do? He's discarded. He's gone. With Cooler, we just do power, rejuvenate 1. And I take this Jiece and I put him at the bottom of my deck. So guess what? Ginyu level 1, I can pop him right back out. And a lot of times I'll bait out my opponents. A lot of times if I've got this combo up and I know what they're doing, I'm going against a deck that's going to be doing shoulder grabs. I'm going against a deck that's got static shots or a couple auto crit effects like New Trunks level 2. I kind of bait them out. I'll wait them out a little bit to see what they're going to do. And if they crit away one of my allies that I really need, cool, I'm gonna get it with Cooler. And that's a lot of, the best part about this deck is it puts the choice on your opponent. Who do you want to get rid of? And as players see me play the deck, they realize what I'm doing. And they go, well, yeah, I can get rid of Jiece now, but he could just get him back with Cooler. Or I could crit Cooler away, but if I do, then he's got Jiece on the field. And what the deck does is just mount so much pressure that at some point your opponent has to say, you got 4 or 5 allies out in the field, which one do I get rid of? Which one hurts me the most? And putting that pressure on your opponent is key, super key. All right, let's talk about a friend, Nappa know-how, because Nappa says no to setups. I still have people who try to activate setups with Nappa. I still have people who are like, oh, visiting the past, and I go, Nappa know-how. No, because setups, I don't like them. And I don't run any setups in this deck, so it doesn't adversely affect me at all. We do run Dodoria for the Dragon Ball matchups. This is a conversation I actually had with Kevin Bach, and this is a tech that we've seen in a few decks. Dragon Ball decks aren't necessarily super popular. But if I look at Dragon Ball decks out there now, and I look at some of the variants, I look at the Slug Ball, which we have seen has been fairly popular. And there are a few other variants of that deck. Dodoria, again, for 1 card, pays off in spades. If I'm going against a Dragon Ball deck, being able to just steal their Dragon Balls and they can't do anything about it is insane. And I've just won a lot of games by just throwing Dodoria out there, because now my opponent, guess what? He's got to focus on Dodoria. He's got to focus on, oh, crap, now I got to get him off the board. I don't want him stealing my Dragon Balls. And I'm like, great, he won't steal your Dragon Balls, but I got Jiece on the field. I've got all these other allies on the field. What do you want to do? Speaking of another advantage mitigation card, Dr. Wheelo. Hello, so good. He actually works really good in tandem with Nappa, because a lot of players will target Nappa and they'll get him off the board as quickly as possible. Well, even though they don't have the same effects, Wheelo can still shuffle a setup back into their deck. So if they've got a black power up on the field, a lot of times what I will do is I will shuffle away if I know my opponent is targeting Nappa and I know they've got cards to get rid of them. I'll go, fine, you can get rid of my Nappa, but I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that black power up. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that black searching technique because I know you're gonna use it. He gets banished, and then guess what? I'm tag team, so he's coming back. So like the Dodoria and the Wheelo, the 2 banished, are so good on Ginyu 1. That's why I like sitting on Ginyu 1 in a lot of control matchups, because it's just banish, get back to the deck, come out. Banish, get back to the deck, come out. Banish, get back, just back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth. And over the long term, these guys pay off in spades, especially him in Dragon Ball decks. I've had games where I've stolen 3, 4, 5 balls just with him over and over again. And those Dragon Ball Victory decks, well, at some point they run out of steam and I just peck away at their health. Last ally, we are running Recoome Boom. Odd choice for me at first. Odd choice for me at first because I wasn't really thinking he was as viable. But here's the great thing about it. Yes, he is a physical attack. But the idea behind it is, look, your opponent's going to be holding on to their energy guards. And in this meta, they may have a physical block. That's very true. But the best trick about Recoome is attacking with Ginyu level 1, right? And let's just say you're at 1 or 0 power stages above your 0 level. I don't know how many times that I've attacked with Ginyu and I said, okay, cool, you know, like Recoome's been the only one. I'll go, oh yeah, I'll select Recoome for action. Well, my opponent goes, oh, fine, whatever, yeah, you can do that, man, no problem. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll select him. And either they'll throw an attack that's non-style, or I'll just throw out one of my 3 playful punches. I'm like, oh, what do you know? Huh, I got my 5 stages. Oh, I'm at 5 or 6 above? Well, you know, I just selected this Recoome for actions. And now, because I have 5 stages, I can smack you in the face and draw the bottom card of my discard pile. Trick works all the time. It's so brilliant. And speaking of playful punch, this card is I'd say one of the reasons why Ginyu is so good. Just another omni block for non-style attacks is great on board, and then it can just go back into aggro. You know, again, gain 5 stages, lower your anger. There's our anti-anger, which is great, and then damage 3 life cards. Again, we're not doing a ton, but it still pecks away. And the fact that we still get the other effect of gaining 5 stages and lowering their anger by blocking a non-styled, it's great. And there's a lot of non-styleds out there. A lot of non-styleds in the Vegeta decks, a lot of non-styleds that you're going to be playing against, so it still sees a lot of use. Not so much against Gohan because, you know, Gohan makes everything styled, but still a fantastic addition to the deck. Alright, so them's the allies. Let's talk here a little bit about energies. Blue Terror, you know. I don't know what else I can mention because it's Blue Terror. It just is. 2 blue energy shields. This card is something I've been running as of late, and it pays off in spades. We are facing a lot more energy decks. You do see it around. We do see people doing red static shots, and the energy attacks in this game mount a lot of advantage, and sometimes are thrown out at first while your opponent still has the stages. This card here is a dual purpose. Of course, stops an energy attack. You may set your MP's power level to 0. So this here is, if we're going against an energy-based deck, right, and they're not really hitting it with physicals, we're not able to get our power stages down. Great, we're going to block the energy and I can set Ginyu to 0. Now all my allies are active. But the bonus effect, your allies cannot be discarded by critical damage effects this combat. This card at a 2 of just ruins days because a lot of times an opponent may get a crit and you have 4 to 5 allies out. It doesn't matter, they can't crit them away. You can feel safe taking damage, taking 4 against a new black deck and going, great, you can't crit it away. This card has been really in PPV for me. It works out in a lot of situations, and it's why I run it over what you see in a lot of other decks, because the real killer for this deck is crits. If you get critted and you get your allies off the field, you start losing a lot of advantage real quickly, and you don't want that. So against another energy-based deck, against another Ginyu, against a Gohan ally, against a Cell ally, you know, he may be popping them off and shuffling them back in your deck. You're Ginyu 1, that's cool. But getting rid of them by crits can hurt you a lot. We are running through 3 blue narrow escape because, you know, this has been one of the best original set cards. 3 endurance, choose 2 energy combat cards from your discard pile and place them on top of your life deck. This is really good from a strategic standpoint of allowing you to either set up your next turn, or if you know you're going to take damage, pop up some endurance that you might have thrown away from another card, or maybe you milled a few cards and some endurance hit there. Pop them on top, helps you take some endurance off there so you don't get hit by crits. And again, 3 endurance, it's like that 3 endurance is insane. It's really insane, and the value of it comes through in spades. So that's completely key. All right, let's talk about some anti-anger here with the Villainous Powerball. This card is such a good tech. I've played it now from really its inception, and I haven't looked back. It's a phenomenal card. Villains only, limit turn per deck, energy attack costing 2 stages, lower your opponent's anger 2 levels, prevent 4 stages of damage from your opponent's attacks this combat, damage 4 life cards. So, you know, the whole idea behind Ginyu is you're not worrying about physical attacks, right? Because, hey, I've got the stages to absorb it. But when we start going against the Brolys, when we go against the Red Ruthless Gokus, we add the modifiers, and you know, they're sitting up 4 or 5 brackets above you, and you're at 0, you might be okay with it. But again, when they're sitting you and hitting you for like AT plus 4, that's 9 stages. Well, at a certain point, I don't care how many allies you have out, you can't spread the attacks out. So just doing the -4 stages is really nice, because then you can take advantage of some of your other ally stages. Like if I got, you know, Dodoria out here and he's got some useless stages and he's not doing anything with Dragonballs, I'm not going against that kind of deck. Great, I'll just start draining him of stages, and now instead of something that would drain 9 stages, I can drain, you know, 4 and 4 or 5 and 5, and that really sets up for a nice advantage. Again, the anti-anger is great, but physical decks can still hurt you, and this is just a great mitigation tool if you're going against physical decks. So, totally love it. 3 blue Clash, because, you know, this still is one of the money cards for the deck. Energy attack costing 1 stage. Damage from this attack cannot be prevented. And then if your opponent banished an ally in their last action this combat, this attack deals +4 life cards damage. Damage 4 life cards hit, search your life deck or banish one for an ally and play it. Another great on-hit effect. And since you are running Ginyu, who also has an on-hit effect, a lot of times, you know, bait out with the Ginyu, get your ally out, see if they block, and then if they do, hit them with the blue Clash. It's still unpreventable damage. Got your Guldo on board. Well, guess what? We're doing 6 unpreventable damage, and searching from your life deck and banish zone is nice too. And I've had a couple times where I've had like a Wheelo or Dodoria in the banish zone. I'll pop the Wheelo back out and I'll start shuffling stuff back into their deck. And that's the other thing about Wheelo that I wanted to mention that I think is great, is that Wheelo, especially getting him out of the banish zone with blue Clash, he is not only mitigating advantage from your opponent and throwing back setups and drills and allies. Against another ally deck, he's amazing, because you're starting to shuffle back allies, shuffle back allies, shuffle back allies, and maintaining advantage for your board while destroying it for theirs. And then guess what you're doing? You're putting more dead cards into their deck from a draw standpoint. So you mitigate advantage, put more dead cards into their deck, so that hopefully when you get into the later turns, they're going to draw into those cards and makes it difficult. That's where blue Clash really comes into play. Oh baby, baby. We're gonna run 3 blue Lunar Rays. This is just all money, man. All money. Getting them out of their discard piles is important. And then the other thing is, of course, the hit. Raise that ally to its highest power stage. I can't tell you how many times I've popped this out and I've gotten Jiece on my discard pile because he's critted away. And guess what? He's got 10 stages ready to go at any time. And that just means he's got 5 shots hitting you turn after turn after turn. Plus, you can even do that on an ally you get out for physical damage mitigation. So that's why Lunar Ray is still at a 3 of. Like I said, crits and discard are my biggest enemies in this deck, and I want to get them out as soon as possible if I'm sitting at 1. So we run that baby at 3. Of course, 3 overpowering attack. 2 for 5, ally out of the discard or life deck. Need I say more? It's beautiful. It's set 1. It does work. No need to have a conversation. We are running through 3 blue Arm Blast because I do believe in the utility of this card. I still believe it serves a purpose. There are a few physical attacks that I just don't want to hit. There are sometimes I'm going to get hit with a dick, and maybe I don't want to level up to 2. Maybe I'm beginning the game and I want to keep getting them out of my deck instead of my discard pile. Or if I'm going up against a Sinister Choke. You know, there's a lot of instances where I may want to block a specific physical attack. And then on the flip side, hey, I can go ahead and use it. Thrown out there as a 2 for 5. It's overpowering without the ally recursion, but I get a block out of it for physicals. Super, super good. So that's why we're running at 3. We are running 3 blue Blanketing Blast because loaded, this card is beautiful. Endurance 2. Place a card from your discard pile on top of your life deck. This is the real end of turn card. A lot of times I'll save this for the end of turn. And you notice I don't run Visiting the Past. It's a dead card in my hand. I run Nappa on top of that, and talking with players and doing some testing, and Kevin Bach was a real good inspiration for that. Just the thought process behind not running Visiting the Past and seeing Blanketing Blast as that card. I don't know how many times that I've recurred Time as a Warrior's Tool to the top of my deck at the end of a combat. My opponent keeps passing, they have no actions. Cool blue Blanketing Blast. It's a 3 for 6, which is solid damage. 2 endurance, again, great endurance on this deck. And the best part about it is just saying, hey, you know what? I'm gonna put a card on top of there, and if I hit, many and most of the times I will, because it's the last attack in a string, I want to save that to put, the card on top. I'm going to banish 3 cards from your discard pile. And the control, the deck manipulation, the discard pile manipulation, this has a lot of effects for not only setting up for time, but a lot of times I've done things where I've had Recoome out, and maybe the second to last card is better than the last card. So maybe I'll just take that card and place it, on top, or, the bottom card, and go, cool, bottom card's on top. Oh, guess what? I've got overpowering attack on the bottom. Draw that out with Recoome and then just hit you for more damage. So the flexibility of this card is absolutely phenomenal, and it's a definite 3-of. Hey, guess what? I hate it when you level. I don't want you to level. So blue neck me, because I like endurance. Screw your leveling. And it's just a simple 2 for 4. I'm not really using it for its discard ability. I don't really have many cards, unless I go against a black deck that's running only a few specific cards that would do that. I don't have any cards here that really discard it from my hand, so the stage gain is mitigated. But again, sorry, I'm going to de-level you as much as possible in this deck. And again, when we're throwing attacks with Ginyu, and we got Jiece, and we got Aggro 13, and we got, blue Blanketing Blast, bait that out and then throw the neck beam and lower them down. Make their life difficult. It's my baby. It's my boo. Blinding Energy move. Oh, this card. This card is so good. I am still in love with this card because getting out of combat is great. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. The number of times I've tricked players into popping off the Visiting the Past and the Red Destiny and any other cards when they're in combat and this and that and this and that. And I'll have so many times where, let's just say, I play an ally or something and I have one of these in my hand. Well, I'll have like 3 cards in my hand. And it just still amazes me to this day. When you go up against a Ginyu deck, the great thing about blinding energy moves, specifically in a Ginyu deck, is that your opponent knows you gain advantage in the deck. When they see a board full of allies, when they know you've got overpowerings and Lunar Rays and Ginyu's power and you got Blue Clash, man, that's a lot of stuff that's getting you extra actions. So a lot of times they're going to go for extra defense, or they're going to pull cards out of their discard pile. And popping off that blinding energy move when you enter combat with 3 cards, right? And they've got 1, and a lot of times, especially against go-to decks, oh my god, Goku, it's so beautiful, because they go, oh, I'm Visiting the Past, pop this card out of my discard pile, then draw with Goku, then draw 3. And I'll have this and 2 other cards. I'm like, blinding energy move? Cool, they'll block it, but you gotta get rid of 5 cards in your hand. I gotta get rid of 2, but you gotta get rid of 5. And a lot of times, that's what I really like to do with this. Of course, getting out of combat is great. This is one of those cards I'll keep because you can't sphere it. It's non-spherable, it just says no. It's a big no, it in combat. And because if I banish my allies, doing tag team, I don't care. I don't care if I banish anything in this deck. So 2 of these babies, oh my god, they're beautiful. And 2 new additions from this set. Allied Blitz. This card is so beautiful, so beautiful. 3 endurance, first of all. Let's talk about that. 3 endurance on the card, which is insane. Energy attack costing 1 stage. Whenever you perform an energy attack this combat, your opponent skips his or her next action this combat. Hit. If your MP is not a Saiyan, what do you know it's not, because we're Ginyu. Then for the remainder of combat, your allies may make actions regardless of your MP's power stage. Now, let's just look at the 1 for 3 and the hit effect. That in itself is scary for a lot of players, because they go, wow, if I'm at 10 power stages or I'm really high and I haven't gone into combat a lot or we passed a few times, this is just a good mental trick, because here's what happens. I'm going to throw this first. This card essentially says, I'm throwing this, you have 1 action. You have 1 action. Whatever that action is, after you do that, I'm just gonna unleash a flurry of attacks on you, and you just will have nothing to do. So the thing is, then they'll see that hit and they'll go, crap, do I really want this to, I mean, I don't want to block this because I know he's gonna throw a flurry of attacks at me. It's a 1 for 3, it's really small, but man, if it hits, that's gonna really hurt. So again, we're putting the pressure on the opponent. We're making them think, what do you want to do? You know, how do you want to address the situation? And then, of course, like I said, the best part is whenever you perform an energy attack this combat, your opponent skips his or her next action this combat. This card has saved me so many times from those decks that are right at level 4, you know, 1 to 2 anger. And you just need to beat them down. But of course, with a lot of decks now, late game advantage, they're going to be pulling out those cards, popping up, and maybe winning by MPPV. This card here says, if you've got 15 or so cards in your deck and you don't got the defenses, a lot of times late game they won't. Once they're trying to hit that MPPV, you've already worn through their defenses. This card says you have one action. And whatever that action is, better be good. Because if it's not, then I'm just going to keep coming at you action after action after action after action. That's the great thing about it. This is my game ender. This is what I throw to just keep the pressure on my opponent. And then, hey, they can't do anything. So it's a beautiful, beautiful card. We do tech in one wall breaker. I believe the anti-anger I have in this deck with cards such as Blue Deterrence, which is one of the new cards. Stop physical, lower your opponent's anger 2. That's great. Running the 3 blue head knocks, which by the way, let's all just look at the 3 different patterns, 3 different foil patterns. The new starter, the set 4 starter, and a print 4 set 1. Yeah, I mean, let's just, 3 different starters all together. But again, we got blue head knock for the anger hate. We've got, like I said, the Villainous energy ball. There's a lot of anger hate in this deck. So I don't really believe in running 2 wall breakers. I think it's a little wasteful. But yeah, that's why I run that at 1. Like I said, Blue Deterrence. It's a solid card. It's a better version of an older card, which I like. It's got your endurance, but lower your opponent's anger 2 level. So even though we don't mind taking physicals, it's still a nice way to be like, nah. Hey, guess what else? We don't like anger. We like true endurance. And it's 5 life cards. This is still, like, it's one of the best cards in blue. Every time I play this card, I go, I don't know how we're 7 sets in, and this card is still as good as it is. Super valid. We do still run Blue Betrayals. Now, let's talk about this for a second, because I know a lot of people are going to disagree. I know it's still very weak. It's, as for all intents and purposes, will be an event. But here's the thing. There are still things that you're going to want to banish. You're going to go up against decks that are just going to have that key card that for whatever reason you want to get rid of the ally, the setup, or the drill. And it's going to be super important to do it. Blue Betrayal does that job for you, and I still think it is a great tech control card because as you noticed, as much as we have damage, we have control. So we're able to mitigate your advantage, and I run the Wheelo, and I run the Dodoria for ball decks. This is where I think this fits in nicely at a 2 of. I don't think it needs to be a 3 of, but I think it's good at a 2 of. And then we do run I'll Dig Your Grave. Because this deck really, in reality, it doesn't put out huge numbers. The numbers from each attack individually isn't huge. I'm not really doing 12 life cards of damage and 13 life cards of damage. I'm doing 3, 4, 3, 5, 4, 5. You know, they're good attacks, but you know, you can start endurance them out, and starting out with a dig is really great. It's a leveling mechanic for me again. I was running Body Switch, but I just felt that it was just too lackluster, and it really just depended on my opponent. I'd rather throw this and then just say no to endurance for the rest of combat, and then have the possibility to go up a level, than to just have a card that raises me a level. I think this is better overall advantage, and so this is why I run it, mainly for getting rid of your endurance. I rarely level with this, sometimes I do, but again, the meta is filled with so many decks that raise up in levels that do like winning by MPPV, that raising a level is bad. I will use this sometimes, like, you know, for instance, if I know I got a blue neck beam in hand, and I know they don't have a block for it because I hit a stare down or something, cool, you know, then I'll go ahead and throw it, I'll level us up, and then, you know, I'll neck beam them down for the end of combat. So that is really what that card is all there for. So yeah, that right there is pretty much the deck as it is. I'm telling you, this for me is the best version of the deck I've ever played. I will put my reputation on it. It plays phenomenally. The synergy with all the cards is great. I'd say my win rate is a solid 90%, like high 80s to 90. And this is going against a lot of players. This is playing online. This is playing against your Gokus. This is playing against the Slug deck. This is playing against Trunks deck, which actually the new Trunks is the biggest enemy of this deck, because new Trunks more than likely will get up level 1 if he's running the new one, and his level 2 with the auto crits is strong. Big matchup worries you have here are going to be red decks. Red decks with auto crits and shoulder grab, that's a big worry. Decks that do a lot of ally manipulation like the new Cell or new Gohan, he has some ally mitigation there, so that can kind of slow you down. But this is all about playing control and damage. And that's what I like about this deck, because I think it plays to gain you strengths while mitigating your opponent's advantage. And as you build the deck up and start putting the allies out, just think about what your opponent's goals are and how you mitigate their advantages with your Wheelos, with your betrayals. That's what we're going to go into as we're playing the game. And then as we stabilize and mitigate their advantage, now we're going to put the output. Now we're going to hit damage. So I would say start off with a control, go into damage, and you will see a lot of success with this deck. Try it out. Tell us what you think. I mean, post in the comments below what you think about the deck, what you might change. But this is my main deck I've been playing. It's my main meta deck. When I go to tournaments, you will see me playing this. I will play no other deck but this blue Tag Team Ginyu, because I believe right now in the meta, Crinsart is easily available. Anti-ally isn't as readily used, because we're teching against a lot of the Roshis and the Gokus and Slug and whatever you see out there. People aren't running the anti-ally as much. So I think that's part of the reason he's able to flourish in this meta, because he doesn't have to worry so much about his allies as he used to. But we run enough ally recursions with those 3 Lunar Rays, the 3 blue clashes, and the 3 overpowering attacks, that we're getting our allies back fairly soon. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. I'm glad to be back. Sorry we've been missing for a while, but I've been excited to do this for a while, so we hope you enjoy it. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see some more DBZ content. We got that coming out this next week, and we'll see you guys next time.